I am not paying these ridiculous fines.
We are done talking about the lights.
You signed the agreement. You will adhere to the guidelines or the Lien stands.
The first ticket showed up on my door at 4:27 a.m., taped crooked over the peephole, fluttering in the cold air while the trash truck's flashing lights turned my driveway blue and red. I opened the door in my socks, shivering, and the smell of wet asphalt and diesel hit me. There it was, violation. Exterior illumination non-compliant. $50. I looked up at my porch. 2 small warm bulbs glowing over a chipped welcome mat. That was it. As I stood there, my neighbor's motion lights across the street blazed like a stadium. No ticket on their door. Just mine. By the end of the week, 5 more tickets. Same dumb reason. So yeah, HOA ticketed my porch lights 22 times. That I pulled the lien is not an exaggeration. Our HOA president is a classic Karen. Short blonde bob, clipboard, permanent squint like she smells something bad. She cornered me one evening while I drank coffee on the porch before my night shift. She wagged her pen at my lights and said, "We have standards, you signed the rules." I asked her to show me the rule. She just smiled that tight smile and said, "Pay your fines or they double." Then she turned and marched off like she owned the street. I tried to play nice. I went to the next HOA board meeting in the stuffy clubhouse, where the air smelled like old coffee and printer ink. I laid the stack of tickets on the folding table and told them I work nights, I need my lights for safety, and every other house has brighter lights than mine. Karen sat at the center, gavel in hand, chin up. The other board members wouldn't meet my eyes. One neighbor shifted in his chair, then stared at his shoes. Karen read from some vague illumination guideline that never mentioned times, wattage, or anything real. Then she said, "Appeal denied. If you keep refusing to pay, we can place a lien on your home." Everyone just sat there like little statues. That was the moment I felt something snap inside me. On the walk home, the air was cold and sharp, and my breath fogged in front of me. I realized this was not about porch lights. This was about control. So I drew my line in the sand. I promised myself I would only use proper channels. No yelling, no threats, just rules and facts. That night, after my shift, I sat at the kitchen table with a giant mug of coffee and the HOA covenants, city code, and our state HOA laws pulled up on my laptop. I found out something big: the board cannot make up new fines that aren't in the recorded documents. Extra policies have to be adopted properly and filed. Our porch light rule? Nowhere. Then I checked my own record with the city and saw 3 nuisance and trespass calls from our address that I never made. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I whispered it like a promise. The next week I turned into a one-man paperwork machine. I filed formal records requests with the city about every complaint from our HOA number. I asked the county for the HOA's filings and budgets. When the envelope came back, the file landed with 63 pages on my kitchen table with a loud smack. Buried in there were emails from Karen to code enforcement, pushing them to ticket my house for everything from trash cans to a fake barking dog complaint. I built a clean list. Timeline item 1 April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. Timeline item 2 May 3rd, 2024 at 9:00 p.m. false noise complaint while I was literally at work. It went on and on. Then I matched it with photos of other houses' bright lights, cars on lawns, trash cans in the street. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. When I had enough, I made my move. First, I filed a formal complaint with the state office that oversees HOAs, attaching scans of the binder and pointing out that none of the porch light rules were in the recorded covenants. Then I filed a small claims case against the HOA for the illegal fines and harassment costs. It took a few weeks, but then the letter came from the state investigator. They agreed the fines were not authorized, and they requested the board stop enforcement immediately. 2 days later, we had court for my small claim. Karen showed up in a stiff blazer, hauling a messy folder. I had my neat binder and the state's letter. The judge flipped through, frowned, and looked straight at her. He said in a calm voice that the HOA had overstepped its authority and that the fines and threats of lien were improper. Then he ruled in my favor for all the fines plus court costs. The real twist came next. With that judgment in hand, I went to the county recorder. I filled out one simple form and turned my court judgment into a lien against the HOA's common property, including the little clubhouse Karen loved to rule from. It was fully legal. If they didn't pay me back, they couldn't sell or refinance that property without dealing with my lien. A week later, on a bright Saturday morning, the notice showed up taped right to the clubhouse door, big official stamp and all, fluttering in the breeze. Karen arrived for the monthly meeting, heels clicking on the concrete, and froze. A small crowd of neighbors was already there, phones out, recording. Someone read the notice out loud and laughed. Another neighbor whispered, "Guess those porch lights were expensive, huh?" Word spread fast. Our neighborhood Facebook group blew up that afternoon. Screenshot of the lien notice. Screenshots of the state letter. People posted stories of their own dumb tickets from Karen over flower colors and kids' bikes. Comments poured in. Finally, someone wrote what everyone was thinking: so we've been paying fines that weren't even legal? The next board meeting was packed. This time, people didn't stare at their shoes. They stared at Karen. The state investigator's rep sat in the back, arms folded. The rep calmly explained that the illegal fines had to be refunded, the lien threats stopped, and that the board had to hold a new election because they'd been breaking their own rules for years. Karen tried to talk her way out of it, but her voice shook. One neighbor stood up and said, "You scared us with liens. Now look who has one." The room cracked up. Within a month, Karen resigned from the board. A new, calmer president took over, and the HOA hired an outside manager who actually read the laws. The bogus tickets on my porch lights were wiped. The HOA wrote me a check to clear the judgment, and I filed to release my lien. The notice on the clubhouse came down, but people still talk about it like neighborhood legend. Now the evenings are quiet. My porch lights glow at a normal level. Kids ride bikes in the cul-de-sac without Karen popping out with her clipboard. Last week, my next-door neighbor brought over a plate of brownies and said he was sorry he didn't speak up sooner. I told him it was okay, but next time, we stand together. We sat on my porch, drinking coffee, watching the street lights come on, feeling like the neighborhood finally belonged to the people who actually lived there. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.